You're listening to a 58 Ember production.
Welcome to Sky Talkers. Here are your hosts, Charlotte and Caitlin.
Hello, and welcome to Sky Talkers. I'm your host, Charlotte.
Hey everyone, I'm your other host, Caitlin. If you love Star Wars and you're looking for the best place to break down all the latest TV shows, movies, and themes from Star Wars, you're in the right place with Sky Talkers.
Woohoo. Okay, so Caitlin and I are together in person, recording in Caitlin's office for the first time for like a TV show breakdown. So we're gonna see how this goes. Like, I feel like we've never done this in person.
Yeah, we have. We definitely have with Mandalorian. We did our Acolyte Q&A together over the
That's
summer.
true, but we didn't like break down an episode.
I think we've done like a Mando
Okay.
before, but
I forgot what I said. Forget what I said.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're talking about Skeleton Crew, episode 4. This one was a weird one. I'm excited to talk about it. It was a little wacky in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
So this is episode 4. It's called "Can't Say I Remember No At Attin." Can't say I remember no At Attin.
Can't say I remember no At
We're continuing
Attin.
the tradition of long titles that are quotes from the episode.
And what's interesting is this is a quote we've already heard in the show.
If you think that's interesting, you can.
I mean, there's not the kind of meat on
There's
these
no
episode
meat for the titles except for their length.
I think it is interesting that they chose a repeated line. It was a choice.
Okay, sure.
Right?
Yeah, well, I think that we're going to be saying, "Can't say I remember no At Attin" for a while, but this one was directed by the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. I don't think I know how to say his last name.
I don't think I do either. I'm glad you went for it.
People just say the Daniels.
The Daniels.
Okay, so it's written also by Chris Ford and John Watts. We know that they write the whole thing. And this aired on December 17th. We were recording this on December 19th. So, Caitlin, what did you think?
I like this episode. I will say it's probably been my least favorite from the series so far, but it definitely grew on me a lot on second watch, and I think I really like how they're pacing the mystery of At Attin.
I agree. I feel like I got a sense. I was worried a little bit that this episode would give away the mystery too much. Like, I was like Wim when they showed up at the planet with the coordinates, and I was like, oh, we're back.
We're back.
Like, that's it. The mystery's over.
Yeah.
And all that fun of like, where is At Attin? What is it? We're back on the planet. We're not going to be like in this squashbuckling pirate mystery like I thought. But instead, we get like a shadow planet. And I'm really excited about that. But I agree with you. This wasn't my favorite episode. And I just want to talk about this for a second because I think it's kind of funny. So Star Wars really freaking lucked out with getting the Daniels to direct an episode of Skeleton Crew. And they directed this before they won an Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
That's so crazy.
It's so crazy. So we really lucked out as fans, first off, for getting the Daniels. It's very cool. But I think because Everything Everywhere All at Once was such a huge hit and it won Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor and everything. It was and Best Supporting Actress. It was all over, right? I think it's a very popular movie. And it's very popular to talk about in the zeitgeist for being like very weird. It was a weird, wacky movie.
Yeah.
So I think when everyone was like, can you believe that the Daniels
their episode.
Yeah, the Daniels are doing a Skeleton Crew episode. It's gonna be crazy. Can you imagine? And I think people were thinking about the scenes and Everything Everywhere All at Once with the rocks and the metaphysical hands and things like that. Like, and then we heard that this was going to be a Neel episode. And I was like, oh man, this
felt like all the
really
stars
deep.
were aligning.
Yeah, I was like, perfect. And I still think that. But I do think that, and this was no fault of the creators because Everything Everywhere All at Once was as big as it was before this show was even shot.
Yeah.
That my expectations for it were this one's going to be the wackiest one. And I don't even think it was close to as wacky as some of those Mando episodes that we've gotten, you know? So yeah. I think that in terms of whether I liked this episode or not, I did. I thought it was great. Good watch. I actually thought the length was good. I know people are still going to complain about the fact that it was like 36 minutes or something. I thought it was great. I thought, like you said, I like the way that they're pacing the mystery of it. I totally agree with that. But I definitely had some high expectations for the wackiness of it. And I don't know if those were met. It's okay.
I think there are some ways. I think I think there are some ways the episode could have been changed to have, I don't know, more of that wackiness or kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about if I were to change things in the episode or what made it feel like kind of my least favorite out of the episodes we've seen so far. I think the fact that we have this shadow planet, it's meant to be the complete opposite of At Attin, which it is, and it succeeds in that. But it was almost like too drab. I think they maybe could have upped the creepiness of it a little bit more. And even, I think, upping there being more kids on this planet. They have the whole thing about, we treat our kids like adults. They're warriors. That's how we honor them. And the whole point is to contrast, how Neel grows up and how the children, all of our skeleton crew grow up versus these kids on this planet.
They're literally fighting for their life.
Yeah, but we really only interact with two of them.
Right.
Really. So I think if they could have, because when we first got into the episode, I was almost like, okay, this is kind of like a Lost Boys situation, thinking about our Peter Pan conversation we've talked about, maybe Lord of the Flies. And then, we meet the adults and we kind of get a little bit more context for the planet. But we don't really see many of the other kids in this situation and kind of their thoughts on it, or even just them more in the background, I guess. And I think that I think the episode might have benefited from having more of that.
I agree with you. I'm just sitting here thinking, I agree with you. But I do think and I don't want to come off as complaining. I'm not trying to be, because I genuinely did like this episode. I think I found the fact that there's these kids and these kids are treated as adults and they're always in this forever war, right? And that was, the message was simple, and it didn't need to be bigger than it was. So I agree with you that there could have been more kids, or we could have not gotten to see more of that or something. But I don't think that what we were introduced to in this specific episode needed to be as big as all of that, because really what it needed to show Neel is that on this opposite planet, the shadow planet of At Attin, that we got that these kids are fighting for their life, and also there's not that many people here either.
Yeah.
And that the concept of a war is so simple, and yet I guess I'm trying to say is that I feel like we didn't need to overcomplicate it. And I don't think they overcomplicated anything.
I don't think they did either. I think maybe some aesthetic changes could have been made to, I don't know, bring in some of that wackiness that we were kind of talking about with the Daniels and,
I guess. Yeah.
I will say, though, I had my brain was kind of going a mile a minute when we first started the episode.
Me too.
And I truly thought they were back on At Attin. And I was like, did we go through a time vortex? Have they gone all the way to the future or the past? And At Attin, all of their family is gone. I really went some places.
But it's not. It's not. I thought that too. And I think we're supposed to be like, where are we? Did they go through a time warp? I agree. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're already talking about the specifics of the war and things like that. Okay, so we're on a parallel planet. It's basically the upside down of Star Wars. And if you're unfamiliar with the Stranger Things lore, but the upside down is basically a parallel universe, and things that happen in that one happen in the other one too. And that's not necessarily the same here, but the locations that we visited in this episode I thought were super interesting, because we were in basically what we know to be Fern's house, but it's all destroyed. The reason why they know where to go is because they know the map of their own planet. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the place where they found at the very end, right, where they found
the supervisor's tower.
It's the supervisor's tower. So they know that. So, but there's no supervisor here.
Where is he?
Yeah. So anyway, when they're going into the planet, also I thought the autopilot sequence was weird.
I thought it was weird too, because it's freaky, and then
then he was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna
I'll turn it off."
What was that?
Which I guess is probably one of our hints that he's been here before, so he knows how to turn it off.
Yeah.
And how to combat what's happening at Achrann.
Yeah, at Achrann.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
I do think we have to talk a little bit, or just mention how funny it is when Jod says, "Don't run off." Such a dad
move.
And then Captain Fern is like, Yeah, SM33, make sure he stays here. And SM33 and starts up babysitter mode.
Yeah, initiating babysitting mode. It's great. Come on, baby. Don't make me count. Like, that was so great. I loved that so much.
And I'm pretty sure in the subtitles, baby is capitalized.
Yeah. It's great.
Which is so funny.
I consistently don't know what I believe with Jod. I know that's the point.
Yeah.
But even by the end of this episode, I did not know if I even believed that he traded the EOBs.
It just seems so easy.
And the fact that we didn't see it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened?
And I'm like, Jod really gave away the Republic credits. That's the closest thing he has to treasure right now.
And he traded it because they knew he had to find that. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it.
I don't either. There's something. It feels like there's something else that happened there,
but also this is one of those things where it's like, maybe not.
Yeah, because if we're seeing things, maybe not.
Because are we over? This is one of those times where I'm like, oh, we're overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, by the end of it, it's just like, oh, maybe it just like wasn't that interesting to see Jod argue and negotiate and figure that out. Maybe that's fine.
Yeah,
but and it's more dramatic for him to emerge out of the fog with the EOBs
at the end
versus us seeing that, and I think that's totally fine. But I do think that it heightens my distrust for Jod, even though this should have had the opposite effect, which is heighten my trust for Jod.
I think he still has some Republic credits.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And he's not going to give them back to him.
I think they might come up at another time.
Yeah.
And he has to use them again.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So returning to SM33, when they're on at Achrann, so stepping back for a second, are all these planets are at something. What is up with that?
I know.
Because we asked Chris and John why
we asked them
why At Attin?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a play on AT or at? And they smiled, laughed it off, gave an answer, and said, "Yeah, probably is that. It's a crazy thing about pronunciations. It's a good answer." But now I'm like, what's up with the at?
I don't know,
because they're all at.
And are these all the jewels of the Republic?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But why would it be called that? And why would they all have the same name? Why do they all say it's? Why does it all start with AA?
I don't know.
So
I really have no thoughts about that.
Me neither. I just think I just want to say it because I knew we had talked about it on the podcast about what the heck is up with this naming convention, and maybe it's an AT reference, and I still think it might be, but at the same time, I think it's something more though.
Yeah.
In terms of, I don't know. In terms of if there's the difference now is that we know there's many planets that actually start with the name At. And that's weird. Yeah.
Treasure at Attin.
Maybe.
What if all of the different names stand for what they're known for, but that language has been lost?
That's
like
possible.
Attin is some kind of treasure, resource, something.
Mm-hmm.
Achrann is something like that too. Because Kim says when she's looking at Fern's patches, remember? And she's like, oh, it's like Proto-Republic.
Proto-Republic.
So she says something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it could be.
I don't know.
I will say too, so over the week, when people were speculating about different stuff, Children of the Watch posted an interesting tweet about the name At Attin, which I don't really know if this is still relevant anymore, but it felt interesting and that we should talk about it. So they talked about, Children of the Watch had a tweet where they basically mentioned that At Attin, the name Attin is similar to an ancient Egyptian god named Attin. And I used to be really into ancient Egypt as a kid. I was one of those kids. But Attin, so the sun god was Ra, right? Ra was like the head honcho, basically the Zeus of ancient Egyptian mythology. There was another version of him called Attin or Ra Attin sometimes. And as you know, ancient Egypt was polytheistic, worshipped many gods. But there came along this pharaoh named Akhenaten, who he decided he wanted Egypt to become monotheistic and only worship
one god,
the Aten. And so he basically changed all of Egyptian religion during his reign, which was not well received. But he built this whole new city named after himself called Akhenaten, and it was all about the worship of only the Attin. And Children of the Watch pointed out that some of the like the imagery that we have of At Attin and like the Jewels of the Republic with the sun rays shining down basically and like the gildedness, that is very similar to some of the imagery that you see
on the scroll.
Yeah, on the scroll. And then also in Egyptian mythology with the Attin, with like the sun rays shining down and things like that. And I thought that was an interesting point, thinking about how Akhenaten basically made his own religion and kind of made his own reality in a lot of ways. And I don't know if there's that same kind of connection.
Well, change society basically around
his own will, essentially.
Well, I hear that. I'm like, okay, worshiping one God. How does that?
The supervisor,
because I think we have talked about the supervisor being sort of the wizard figure. Who's the supervisor? I have a theory about that. I'll just say it right now. I have a theory about it. I think after this episode, I was like, the supervisor is SM33's old captain. Did you think that when you were watching it?
When I saw you put the theory in our notes, I was like, I think that's a really good theory. And I think that this episode made me remember that we hadn't really speculated a lot on the fact that SM33 was already on At Attin.
Yeah.
And like what actually happened to his captain.
And he had died trying to pull the lever for the ship crashing. What was the lever? The lever activated the
it turned it on, didn't it? Yeah. So, and in this episode, like I said, it made me remember that we hadn't really kind of talked about that a ton. And so, you know, when Fern says she killed his captain, okay, well, where did his captain go? And the whole crash landing on At Attin, to your theory about the captain being the supervisor.
And how long ago did that happen?
Yeah, that also gives a lot of credence to the Wizard of Oz. You know, the wizard crashes in Oz, all of that.
Sure. I don't remember that, but yeah.
Yeah, and the wizard, he crashes in,
with this,
like his
like
hot
his
air
balloon.
Yeah, ends up there.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that also kind of makes sense. People in our Discord were talking about the supervisor as a droid, too, that the supervisor could be a droid, which that kind of blew my mind, too. I was like, that's kind of a crazy theory as well.
I've seen people throw around also that Wim's dad was potentially the old captain, too.
Oh.
Have you
No, I haven't seen that one.
I think that's kind of cool. I don't think it's him.
I don't either.
Because I just don't think it's him. But I like the line of speculation around is I like the fact that we hadn't really considered if the old captain, like who is that? Is he around? What could it be?
Yeah.
And I think the supervisor would be interesting, but like at the same time, if it was the supervisor, why wouldn't he destroy the evidence of the ship?
I mean, it was like very buried.
Not that buried, though.
I mean, the whole thing was really
very buried, but it wasn't that hidden. I would have, if the supervisor is
I were the
supervisor and I was all powerful and I wanted to hide my origin as a literal pirate, where I don't know. I think I would have burned the ship. Right?
Just set fire.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I understand that it was buried and then it was dredged up, obviously, by some construction or something. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just putting a pin in that.
I think that's my favorite theory so far.
Okay.
Is that the captain is the supervisor.
Yeah.
Because it would make, I don't know, I guess if you kind of speculate this out of, you know, SM33, the captain, they arrive on At Achrann, which General Strix, who's in charge of the Troik, he says that they don't concern themselves with off-worlders unless it's to trade hides for munition. Meaning that people have come to there. At Achrann. So if someone comes to At Achrann...
Well, it didn't seem like At Achrann was hard to find.
But that's what's confusing to me, because Kim gives them the coordinates to At Achrann.
Well, Kim gives them the coordinates to an area outside. It's not straight to the planet. It's like this is what my thought about it is. I think Kim gives the coordinates, but the coordinates are to like this cluster area, and then they're like, oh, that's the planet, and then they go towards the planet.
See, I thought Jod said something about like these are the coordinates Kim gave us.
Oh. Well, also, like, based on the description and the fact that it's the shadow and it's the parallel planet, I guess that makes sense. Kim is probably right in sending him to that area because it's like the descriptor checks the boxes.
So then are there – yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just confusing if people can go to At Achrann, but if it is a jewel of the Republic, all the other planets were destroyed except for At Attin.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I guess can people go to the other destroyed planets and they're just destroyed? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
There's so many planet names to be thinking about here.
It's funny because I'm like, oh, we gotta find At Attin, and then it's like, wait, JK, there's all these other planets.
These other planets
that are also like part of At Attin. Do you think that all the other planets also
ring.
look like Do you think that they also look like At Attin?
At
Now I'm getting confused.
At Attin and At Achrann.
Yeah, do you think that they're all parallel?
I think so.
It just kind of changes my perception of this like built suburbia.
Yeah.
But at the same, because I guess I'm thinking about everything that we know so far.
Mm-hmm.
We know, you know, Fern dropped something about her grandfather building
The neighborhood development.
the neighborhood, even though that could have very well been a lie.
Mm-hmm.
She mentioned that. So I guess the neighborhoods are new builds, perhaps. And then that's why we don't really see that At Achrann. We only see, and not that we would, because the entire planet is like potentially bombed. I don't know. Destroyed. Yeah. But the city that we see, the outlines of the city are similar to the city that we see on At Attin. Obviously, it's like the parallel, right?
Yeah.
But we don't see these like houses and things like that. So what was the cool, like when these parallel planets were founded and we have all these planets, are we really just making the main city, and then everything that has grown out from it is because of At Attin's own success? I realize this isn't like an important question to discuss. I just think in terms of where we're going next, and if we see another parallel planet, will that parallel planet have suburbia, or
will it be less destroyed?
What was provided by the supervisor on At Attin? And was it the prosperity of suburbia and like the Epcot nature of At Attin is created by the supervisor? Do you know what I'm saying? Well, and so then that's not that At Achrann, like we didn't get that at all.
Yeah, this is something I think probably also could have added to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show with like the aesthetic, the creepiness perhaps, is having the kids talk more about how they know where to go.
Yeah, totally.
Because we do get instances of that, right? They're like, oh, we're at the school, or my mom's job is there.
Well, they say that, yeah,
they do. But I think even them like going through like Fern's house, like that was very clearly Fern's house.
The fact that they didn't comment on that was weird to me.
That's what I thought. But even if they had been like, oh, if we go this direction, like we should be near like Fern could have said like, my house should be this way or something. You know what I mean? Like I think there could have been something else like that. I think to kind of
and I just went on this whole tirade about suburbia and what was built, and now I'm realizing that we went through Fern's house. But Fern's house is special and different. Fern's house, that's the other thing about it.
I think is different. Yeah. And perhaps they could have also commented on this is the big statue, King No Head.
I'm
like, I don't think we've seen.
I think we had a statue in the first one.
There was a sculpture in Fern's little cul-de-sac.
That's true.
But was there a Supervisor
statue?
King No Head?
I think there was.
Was there? Okay, someone's got to tell us.
I don't know.
I didn't think there was, but I could be wrong.
I need to go back and look at the screenshots.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because then it also would be interesting to know if the mural
was similar, meaning it was the mural was like part of the great, what is it? Or the Jewels of the Old Republic.
So then is the Great Works part of the Jewels of the Republic?
See, we were assuming that the mural in Fern's house was about the Great Works.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not, and it's about the Jewels of the Old Republic,
are they one and the same?
And then is At Attin the only successful one because it's the only one that was left and not destroyed?
These are all excellent
questions.
Excellent cue.
We need to put a pin in all of this because we haven't really even talked about the episode. But I feel like you said, we're pacing the mystery. This is what I wanted to happen, and I'm glad that we're able to talk about this because I was nervous, like Wim was when we approached it, being like, oh no. No more mystery.
I am going to throw one more thing into the speculation pot about all the At planets.
Sure.
Is Jod makes a comment that this is Dusty, like At Achrann is Dusty, like his planet.
Yeah.
What if Jod is from one of the other Ats?
That could make sense, but wouldn't he be like, I'm from another At?
Just at me.
Yeah, just at me.
Just at. I can't remember the other names, but just at Acadia me or
I feel like he would have said it. I think that,
or is he
personally, I know it's no one wants to hear it, but I really do think that Jod experienced something with Order 66. Like, I really do.
No!
I really do.
No.
I know we don't want to buy into it. We don't want to see it again.
No, not on Christmas Day.
Not on Christmas Day. We're going to get an Order 66 flashback on Christmas Eve. I can't. I really can't.
No.
But I do feel like he has experienced some sort of war-torn. His origin story is war-torn because he's alone. He's out there. The fact that this is like my planet. I'm like, okay, so destroyed.
Like the other At-Ats.
Yeah, sure.
What if he's always been looking for the peaceful planet?
Yeah, maybe for like himself because he's
selfish.
Yeah.
Not selfish, but he's always wanted
peace.
That peace.
But like deep down, but then he's chosen pirate.
I don't know. It's not a great speculation, but I just wanted to put it in the pot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we meet the Troik and we meet Hannah. I think what is fun about this show is that we've talked about this before, and this episode was no different, but this show really shows fantasies of kids in their make-believe land, right? Mm-hmm. As much as you and I do not want to live this life on At Achrann, okay, with this constant war between the Eope, like trading Eopes, whatever, right? I can't believe we got Eopes and this.
Eope hides.
And they look a little different. They have like tusks and antlers. That was interesting.
The air is different on At Achrann.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is so cool that we got that. But there is a part of like a childhood fantasy of like kids and adults, or kids like they say, are you guys like an army of kids revolting against the adults on this planet? Like, who asked that? Wim. Yeah. Wim. Because of course, because he has these fantasies of, and I think there's something so like fantastical about like, it would be so cool to like wage a battle. I wish that I was chosen to like hold the sword and I don't know, defend my home.
He references like, it's like he references a story that he's read. He's like, oh, this is just like Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it shows, the show does a good job showing that is obviously not all that fantasy cracks up to be, and that it's really hard and extremely tough to experience that, like, for sure. Like, we know this, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the show really toes the line of, okay, so that's really hard, but at the same time we end it with Neel really learned and got to show his own bravery by the end of it, and we got to see that through these pretty simplistic ways of showing no, it's really like I don't know, we'll get to it, but I think that I liked that there was an exploration of kids and adults. Like, kids are treated as adults, but they're scrappy and cool, and I don't know, just that when we met Hannah, I was like, oh yeah, this is like a fantastical character of like a girl warrior who is who's like full of grit and is really tough, and also has a heart of gold and shows them around the camp. Like, that's a fantasy. You know,
that's what I said. It felt very Lost Boys.
Totally. Absolutely.
And that concept of them being in charge, and creating their own society. I have to say, I love the moment when that other little kid that was there introduced them to General Strix, and he was like, these off-worlders have offered their meaningless names. And he like goes through all of their names, and at the end Fern stands up and is like, actually it's Captain Fern. And I thought, that is such a Wim thing for her to do.
Totally.
And she instantly regrets it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, so you're warriors.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, I think just to go back on that, I think one of my favorite moments from the episode is when Fern cries at the end and is just really overwhelmed. And I was like, it's about time one of these kids cried, because now they're lost. They're in a situation. And it makes sense to me that the first one to cry really would be Fern, because we haven't seen that side of her at all. And in order to make her like a well-rounded character, and also to really show that she's struggling, and she, took up the mantle of being the captain, and in a lot of ways the leader of this group, the tallest, maybe not the tallest, maybe KB is the tallest, but
close.
Yeah, close. Yeah. And just is the one that is making the decisions and things like that. Or they put things to vote, but she's always like, well, my decision is
constable.
the decision. And I think that for her to experience all these, wrong ends and almost getting killed and things like that. She says all that. But I think just experiencing that for her was really good. And I am glad that it was a Wim and Fern moment there of Wim also recognizing, despite the fact that he wanted to be captain so much as part of his fantasies, that it's hard and that he didn't actually need to be the captain, but instead Fern's emotion around responsibility and being lost was also needed in that moment.
Yeah. Well, because that's what KB and Neel kind of keep saying to Wim and Fern of, we're just kids.
Yeah.
And even when they're being led into battle and Wim is like, we're just going to win the battle. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And KB is like, literally, no.
Right.
As soon as the battle starts, we're going to follow Fern and run away.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And Neel, of course, is the one who doesn't want to partake in it at all. He says in that moment at the end of the episode, the really brave thing to do would be to stop fighting, to say I'm sorry, which is also such like a little kid thing
simplistic
too. Yeah, very simplistic of just like, if I were you, I would just say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
the wars would end if everyone just like hugged each other and I could bake you a cake of sunshine and smiles and we'd all be happy.
I want to live in Neel's world.
Brave. Yeah.
I loved when Neel told Hannah to come with them.
I know.
He was like, I have plenty of room at my house.
I actually thought like maybe she would.
Yeah, maybe if General Strix wasn't her father, if they hadn't set up that dynamic, she would.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be so sweet. I loved their conversations, and particularly I loved, when they're on the top of the school and, Neel is talking about the differences on At Attin, how everything is peaceful. And he kind of says, do you really think that if you just keep raiding each other back and forth, like, do you really think this will ever end? And I loved Hannah's response because she says, yes, but it's a very hesitant yes. Like, she's actually really thinking about what Neel is saying. And we kind of see that reflected at the end when she gives him a cute little kiss.
Oh my God, I know.
At the end, but she says,
Runa is so over. It's so done. Like,
Runa doesn't even know.
Forget Runa. He hasn't even talked to Runa, but he talked to Hannah.
He did talk to Hannah. But she says, perhaps when I'm leader, I'll remember your ways.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was so sweet. Also, the fact that she just kind of like backflipped away.
I know.
I got a little off track, but I wanted to go back to what you were saying about Wim and Fern, because I think we've kind of talked about them as kind of like the two leads, really, of our core group of kids and like what their character development looks like going forward and how they actually have a lot of similarities. And I think I'm really excited. I'm hoping in maybe next week, but in the next episode, really seeing more of Wim kind of realizing that things can't be this play fantasy, this play fighting. We see him all throughout this episode play fighting.
Yeah.
When they're wandering around this scary town, he's got the stick pretending it's a lightsaber and he's so ready to do the training. And it's really only at the end when he has that conversation with Fern that we see him start to take things a little bit more seriously. And I think that will be a big part of Wim's development going forward.
It has to be.
It has to be. And I'm glad that we've started to see kind of the hint of that, because even like halfway through this episode, I was like, Wim, it's serious.
Right.
And even when they were going into Fern's house, right? And KB is like, we got to be careful. The structure is collapsing. And Wim just pushes through the girls and is like, okay, whatever. And just starts walking around. I was like, my guy, take a look around.
I know.
But I think, I don't know. I think that will be coming for us in the next episode, because that is where we kind of leave him at the end here, of really having more of that, like you were talking about, Charlotte, that like heart to heart with Fern and kind of realizing a little bit more of the gravity of what's happening.
Yeah.
And then especially, seeing what happens with SM-33.
Totally. I also think it was interesting that Jod was the one that really put Wim up to talking to Fern. I think that was a good move. I wasn't expecting that. I think that push from Jod was very dad, but also it was like very uncle almost. Not really even dad.
It was very uncle.
It was very much like, you deal with that. And for a second I was like, is this going to be a romantic thing?
Between Wim and Fern?
Yeah.
I
don't think we're like going to talk about that. But like for a second I was like, oh, I don't know. Because it's not like Wim was ever like, oh, I have a crush on her. She's so like, the only thing was she's so cool. Like, she's awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah. Like, why didn't he send KB?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was right for character-wise, of course. But I was like, oh, where are we going with this dynamic? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think also in that moment I was very happy to have conversations between those two characters. I know we've already said that, but it made me excited for the potential of more conversations between KB and Neel, and just I want to like live with the crew a little bit more, I guess, and have those conversations. And like you, I'm ready for Wim to like think about the gravity of the situation. I know, and I hope that this isn't too spoilery, but it is in the trailer that the dad comes back somehow, and I want to like think through the logistics of that. And obviously, like I don't know how I don't know how that all happens, but I wonder if when Wim's dad comes back, like meets up with them somehow, how is Wim realizing the gravity of the situation? I wonder if he sees the gravity in the fact that his dad has also left the planet too, and that they don't like if they could go back to the planet and find their way back, the parents would be there, nothing would be changed on the planet, right? But in the future, if the dad is and Wim's, home, like no one's home for him to come back there, and it's hard for them the kids are struggling even to find a way back, and their only hope then is like getting to the planet and their parents being there too. But instead, the parents, Wim's dad is with them, lost too. That is sort of hopeless, I guess, for Wim a little bit more. That's just equally as, oh darn, this isn't my fantasy. This is serious because my dad's here too. He gave up so much. I know what he gave up. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the whole thing with Neel and wanting to go back to At Attin as well really kind of made me think about, we talked about this in the premiere, but like what the kind of end game is here, because Neel describes At Attin as this very peaceful place. We're not fighting, but I think what we've assumed and kind of speculated about is that there is something quite sinister happening on At Attin. It's just being covered up.
Yeah.
And so how is that going to interact with like Neel's understanding of his home planet, what he defines as peace, what he wants going forward, and then also for Wim and like what he has to come back home to. And I think this will impact all the parents as well. And kind of because I think it's got to come out who the supervisor is.
Yeah.
Right. And that's going to be the mic drop.
I don't think the parents know. I don't think anyone knows.
No, I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah, I don't think anyone knows.
I don't think anyone knows. Because
just one thing before you move on. The fact that this was a Neel-centric episode, we're talking about the parents. It makes sense for Neel's conflict around wanting peace and everything, and see what's at home for Neel is a very happy nuclear family with siblings that love him, siblings that he loves, the perfect suburban house. He did well on his exam, right? Like I think good, I think he it's things are great for Neel, right? At least on like that's what we assume. So it makes sense that for Neel to have his bravery awakening, it would happen on a planet where he's faced with
the exact opposite,
the literal exact opposite, down to it means more for Neel to see families struggling, I guess, like than any other one, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason in my head, it really makes sense that this would be a place that Neel would find that strength and bravery and realization, because just like even more so because of his perfect family at home,
his upbringing.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I also need to say that Neel referencing the fight he had with Jorko, his little brother, and falling on the credenza and spraining his trunk.
Spraining the trunk?
On the credenza.
Not the credenza.
The credenza. Credenzas exist in Star Wars, thank God.
Yeah, it's so true.
Sorry.
I feel like there was that it's spraining his trunk, and then the fact that this planet was smoky and it was making him clogging his trunk, and you could hear the sound effects of like wheezing. The elephant trunk wheezing. It's so funny. It's just great.
I love him. I think you're right. This was the episode to be Neel centric because it represented just everything in his life.
Like being broken.
Yeah. And the fact that he was still able to kind of come through in the end. And
it was so, I'm just thinking about like
through the rock.
Yeah, when he threw the rock, but like even Hannah being like, oh, it's easier to do it with a friend standing next to him.
And how he said, he was like, yeah, it is actually easier as a friend, but as a friend, I don't think this is right.
Yeah.
But what I loved about that scene and the direction of that scene is that he ends up in the front of the group.
Yeah.
Like as he's walking, kind of being like, I'm not just saying
so
this
paralyzed with fear.
because I'm scared.
Yeah.
But I'm really scared. But like, I think we should not fight. And he ends up at the front of the group. And
it's so sweet. Also, I think it was a good parallel to that moment that we talked about in, I think it's episode 3 or episode. Yeah, I think it's episode 3 when the kids escape with Jod and Neel is paralyzed by fear in the middle of the pirate port, and Jod has to come back and basically steer his shoulders away. And he just is like having like a little bit of an anxiety attack. Like the same thing happens here, but instead he pushes through himself. Stop it. And I think that we had clocked that, and them choosing a fork in the road and things like that as moments that were going to come back around, and it did, and I think it'll continue to.
That was really cute. I loved KB didn't have a lot of lines in this episode, but at the end, after Neel has saved them from SM-33, and she goes, "That was so brave."
Yeah,
it's, spoken very matter-factually in the way that KB does.
Yeah,
it was cute.
So cute.
And then he faints.
I think we had wondered also if each episode was going to be focused on a different character and what that meant for the billing, because we noticed that the actress that plays KB was billed second after Jude Law in the previous episode, and then this one, just to confirm that yes, Robert Timothy Smith was second billed in this one, and this was like quote unquote his episode. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about SM-33 and the whole situation with the fact that SM-33 is actually like sort of the MacGuffin.
It became very clear, even in the beginning of the episode, that his whole line of "can't say I remember no At Attin" is an automatic
response.
Yeah, pilot response, really. So I loved the fact that Fern figures that out
based off of her
conversation with
her nanny droid.
Yeah,
also.
and her nanny droid.
And we should have clocked it. I that was one of those moments where I was like, everything matters. I don't know why I didn't think that would come back around.
We were just so caught up in the eye.
Yeah, exactly.
That we weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
But I think it's fascinating that SM-33 and his crew, his captain, would have been on At Achrann. And if did they kill King No-Head? You know what I mean? And then take there was a reason that...
So, okay, what do you think happened when SM-33... You saying that makes me think, I don't think I've thought this through enough, what SM-33 and his captain were doing on At Achrann.
I think they were looking... I feel like they were looking for At Attin.
Absolutely. But what you're... Like, are you saying that did they kill whoever the King No-Head was?
I think so.
In order to get up to the supervisor's area?
Because King No-Head was probably the supervisor. Right? And then, SM-33 knows how to disengage the autopilot when they land.
Right.
He talks about how he remembers At Achrann. And that's what kind of alerts Jod that, wait a second, we also haven't thought about this.
Right. And he says a couple of interesting lines. He says... SM-33, when Jod and SM-33 are talking, and Jod is kind of cluing into the fact that there's something here with SM-33, as he says that he remembers a tower and warriors. So that kind of leads to what you were saying about warriors is interesting, because I think what we encountered on At Achrann are warriors, but for some reason warrior is such a title.
Yeah.
And the scrappy band of EOP fighters of the Troiks are different.
Yeah.
Right.
But it could have been different back then.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, is that it is different. It was probably different. What they were looking for was probably a more more of a civilized society.
So I guess, was the planet destroyed when SM-33 and the captain got there?
Okay, so this is leading more credence to my theory around the captain is the supervisor. He already killed this one. Now he's going to be a different one on At Attin.
If he's been looking for like X marks the spot,
if
he's been looking for the big treasure, the big daddy treasure,
mm-hmm.
and he's going to all these At planets, can't find him.
Found it on At Attin.
Yeah, and he finally finds the core. But I guess why would so if all the other planets are parallel planets too, why would the other planets not look the same and have the same tower that well, I guess they could.
They could. We don't know.
And we're just not there.
We don't know.
I take it back.
Yeah. I think that sort of is getting ahead of it.
Yeah. So I kind of think that SM-33, they get on At Achrann, they destroy the tower, or they destroy King No Head, both literally and figuratively, and then they finally have the coordinates to At Attin.
Yeah, because we go by At I2, At I2, At Achrann, At Arissa, At Arvin, At Akodia, and then At Attin. At A2 sounds like A2. If I'm going back to my AT theory,
I don't know. Can we at this point?
Achrann, we can't really. We can't. It's just interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
A2 when it's written out like you have it written out in these notes is ATAYTUU. Is that in the subtitles? Yeah, I feel like that looks like how we would spell R2. As in D2.
right. That R2.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not trying to make more of this than it is. I'm trying to understand how important
it's like that meme. We're connecting the dots.
Yeah, exactly.
Connect them.
Right. It's because I'm like, we could spend as long as we want to speculate about the other planets, but like, are we actually going to learn about it? Does it even actually matter, or does At Attin is still the only one that matters?
Well, if they are all parallel planets, and we've been to
some are destroyed, by the way. Some are destroyed.
All are destroyed.
But
except for At Attin.
Yes, but how destroyed are we talking? Are we talking Alderaan level wiped off the map, or is At Achrann as destroyed as it gets?
I don't know, but if the captain found what he was looking for, on
sure.
At Achrann in the coordinates to At Attin, and so he makes sure no one else can go there, so he can have the spoils for himself.
Yes.
So either he covered all his bases and did that at all the other planets, or they were already too far gone.
Right.
And SM-33 says that the captain told him to kill everyone.
Pull them apart.
Well, first he killed
everyone on the crew. And then anyone who asks
to pull them apart.
Pull them apart.
Limb by limb.
Oh, that was a lot.
It was scary.
It was scary.
It was scary.
And it was already when SM-33 like activated or in earlier episodes and got like bigger and everything. It was really like, oh wow, he's scary.
He's serious.
We should have thought about this. Okay. This is one of those moments where I'm like, why didn't we think about this? Because even he kind of looks like, oh, this is going to be so bad that I'm going to say this, but he kind of looks like the droid in Rogue One. What's his name? K2SO. Yes. He kind of looks like K2SO, and K2SO's function was evil.
Yeah.
So evil. And we have a pirate. So why didn't we assume? Were you surprised by this? Is kind of what I'm saying. Because I was surprised that all of a sudden SM-33 was like scary.
Yeah. I think
we should have been more surprised.
It kind of always
less surprised.
It always felt like he would do whatever Fern said.
Yeah.
So the fact that Fern was the one giving him the order.
Yeah.
And he was like, limb from limb, pull him apart.
Yeah.
That was definitely concerning.
And surprising. Yeah. So I feel like he actually, okay, they turned him off at the end, right? Jod turned him off, which it's funny how Jod is like, just turn him off. And it's so true. It's so true. So many things are just like
restart it
and
turn it off and on.
Maybe they should have just done it in the Clone Wars with all the battle droids and well, basically they kind of did, right? When they destroyed everything. Anyway, I thought that was good. Jod had a lot of banger lines in this episode, specifically, just shoot me.
You know what?
Just shoot me. That was great.
Like, okay, Jod.
That was great. I was like, this is going to be a meme
right,
forever.
Jude Law.
Yeah. All right, Jude Law. All right, Jude Law. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so just turning it off I think was good. Does this mean, are we done with SM33?
No, okay. I've got
A theory.
A theory for you.
Okay.
What if, because obviously the question is, are they going to be able to repair SM33's memory?
Right.
What droid famously had to be rebooted?
C-3PO?
Yes.
In
The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh my god.
Babu Frick.
We're heading to the Fricks. Well, we've already seen him in Mandalorian.
I know. That's why
the
I'm like,
puppets are built.
Are they? The puppets are built. That's why I'm like,
is this the Mandalorian crossover? This is the Mandoverse crossover.
What if it is though? What if they go, because that's where they are, right?
My mind is blown and like it just makes so much sense.
What's the name?
Just
What's
makes
the
so
name
much...
of their planet?
Kijimi?
No. That's Babu Frick. But the ones in Mando. What's
the planet that they're on now?
Yeah, what are Din and Grogu's home planet?
The one with the gates. I don't know.
I can't remember it. Bad fan. But
I know. It's the planet that they're on now.
It's their home planet.
Their home
planet. Where, you know,
the little cute little houses.
Yeah, adorable house.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is so bad. We're such bad Star Wars fans that we can't remember this name.
No, not coming to me.
Mm-mm.
So they could go there. They could end up there to fix, because the pirates have already been there.
Yeah.
So perhaps if Captain Silvo.
Yeah. Well, we have the B plot also of
that's got to come back.
Them being chased by the pirates. Mm-hmm. So
Brutus
and
coming
everything.
Back.
Yeah.
With the bounty on their head.
And we didn't usually in episode 4s of our podcast we talk about how we're freaking halfway done with the series.
We're halfway done.
We're halfway done with the series.
That's sad.
And there's a lot. I know there's a lot to do. But yeah, I wow, the frick of it all.
I think you were talking that came to me, and
really?
I was like, all right,
that's the
cool.
Mandoverse crossover. I'm not kidding. It's happening.
Watch the space.
Yeah. Also, now I want it to happen.
At Christmas Eve, we're not going to get Order 66. We're going to get the frick of it all.
Instead of being visited by Santa Claus and the reindeer, we're being visited by Babu Frick. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Famously, a huge Babu Frick fan now after The Mandalorian.
I definitely like the Fricks more after The Mandalorian than The Rise of Skywalker.
You were not a Frick fan in The Rise of Skywalker.
I'm not going to get into it.
We don't need to get into it, but there was a lot of redemption that happened for the Fricks. I feel like for the
100%
for us as fans.
Listen,
not really for me, but like I did love him. I love No Squeezy.
I liked Babu Frick in The Rise of Skywalker. It bothered me that he got like 30 minutes in the behind the scenes documentary.
Yeah,
that was it.
As is so much, our opinions are influenced by behind the sscenes documentaries.
Correct.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time on Kijimi in the behind the scenes documentary. For what, I'm not sure. But No Squeezy did have a lot of
Bad Baby.
Give a lot of redemption.
It's the best ever.
It really is. So it's really good.
I would love to return to that.
And I think we could.
Wow.
Can you see all the Neel with the No Squeezy?
Neel fainting in the back in the end. So cute.
Our little baby.
I know. Neel with the Babu Fricks.
Right?
All
this
the
is what we were
kids
saying with him with Grogu, too. Like,
yes.
All the cuties.
Wow. So many cuties.
All the cuties.
It's just constantly daring to be cute.
Exactly. KB would have such a good time in their little studio, their little workshop.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally. I also think that just to like, I agree with you that it would be fun to get to the Fricks, but I do think that KB might be able to help with SM33's back end and everything. It would be a good moment for her to, tinker with the logistics of what's in SM33's wiring.
Yeah.
I feel like she could potentially do that.
I do too. She did say it's only like 500,000 connection points or something like that.
But she said it like kind of like
casually.
Yeah, casually.
Yeah,
I think it would be good if she could do that.
Yeah, I do too.
Maybe she might not be able to. She might need some help
from the Fricks.
Yeah. I don't know.
Christmas with the Fricks.
What do you think about the way that this episode ended? Like the quickness in which it ended?
I was a little surprised. I was glad that they went up into the tower. I almost thought that's where we'd be.
Me too.
That we wouldn't get to see inside the tower, which was going to kind of annoy me, TBH.
Yeah.
But we did go up into the tower. I thought we would get back onto the ship.
Right.
But it kind of felt like that's where we were ending the episode. with something around that.
Totally. I think just to like linger a little bit on the fact that they were in this tower, they climbed the tower, they were in this like creepy elevator and everything. I think there's something Rapunzel-esque about the tower of it all as well, of like something being locked up there. And I think you could say the same about the fact that that's where the supervisor is on At Attin, that like potentially what I'm understanding is like no one really sees him or anything, or whoever this supervisor is, droid or not, right? That it's just up there above everyone else. I think it makes sense, the tower of it all. But it was also fantastical, kind of goes with that fairy tale children's story that we keep referring to.
You got to climb up the tower.
Yeah, they got to climb up the tower. I would assume that when we do someday reach the tower for At Attin, if we see where the supervisor is, I bet it's hard to get up to there. It'll probably be a task, not as easy as this creepy elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it's alive and active and actively protected.
Exactly. Okay, so what do you think happens next week?
I think we got to fix SM-33.
Okay.
I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, because now he is the one.
He's the key.
Is the MacGuffin. Yeah. That has the coordinates for At Attin.
I think the next big things are SM-33 and kind of moving along Wim's character development.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also picking up the pirate storyline and things like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. With Brutus.
I left this episode still, like I mentioned in the beginning when we were talking about this, I left this episode not still fully trusting Jod, moving the needle a little bit, I guess, in the fact that he did save them here. Okay, great.
That's what I've been saying. Like everything that Jod should be doing, he's done.
He's going to double cross them. I feel like there's a double cross happening. Yeah, I do. I think that, I don't know. You know what's so epic that we just don't talk about enough?
What?
The double, triple cross or whatever that happened in Solo. And how that was such a great situation that happens in the end with the shifting allegiances. God, it was so good. I want that back. I want that feeling again. And there's something Solo-esque.
Is Jod going to give it to you?
Maybe, because there's something Solo-esque about this.
Big Shot Gangster putting together a
crew. Exactly. Literally. He is a big shot gangster putting together a crew. I haven't said that in so long. I feel like there's something Solo-esque about the show that we haven't really even touched on that much. But like even the beginning with the crawl, that looks like Solo.
Very Solo.
Yeah. And so I think there is like the lawless time of it all. I bring that up because there was something so epic about that double, triple cross that happened in Solo. And I wonder if something like that could happen with Jod at the end.
It could. I definitely think Jod will end up for the kids.
Yeah. Last week I asked you if you think there's a character arc in which he has a heart of gold and becomes like a father figure, and that's him. And now you're saying this, so I'm just gonna call you out on it.
I think it's different. I think because the way that like only Wim and Neel like ran forward to hug Jod here, and KB was like, "Thank you," and then Fern didn't really say anything. I think there's got to be a group hug by the end,
for sure. That is genuine.
Yeah, a genuine group hug.
So you don't think that's a character development towards Heart of Gold? Well, I guess the gold is in his heart, not in the treasure,
not in his pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we've actually really seen him not have a heart of gold, or rather be so dubious to the point of neglecting, harming the kids.
Sure,
he hasn't. And if this is fantasy, right? If this is fantasy for the kids, you want to have an adult figure that
is trustworthy.
Trustworthy to a certain extent, I guess. I guess I still think they will separate at the end. I still think Jod will go off on his own, perhaps with a reward. But I think that even if he does decide to go against the kids at some point, he will change his mind. And we get a group hug situation.
I agree.
More hugs in Star Wars.
Yes.
So I think we need a group hug.
We do need a group hug. I want that so bad.
Yeah. I think that's where my speculation ends.
Me too. I don't know where this. I used to think that this ended. I don't know. I think that this season will feel complete. Like we won't have like a cliffhanger for season 2. But I used to think that we were going to end on At Attin, and now I just don't even know. And I'm just very much enjoying the mystery of like not really knowing what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do too. Well, I guess we'll find out on Christmas Eve if
So true.
we're back to Order 66 or
Are you going
something.
to watch this on Christmas Eve? What's the vibe?
I don't know.
I know.
We're doing like a lot of family
I
stuff
know.
on Christmas
I
Eve.
know.
So
But I'm not going to be able to.
not watch
I
it. I don't know.
know.
It might be.
I mean, literally this week, guys, I got back from a Christmas party at like 1:30 and I had a flight at 8 o'clock in the morning, meaning my alarm was set for 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I can't go to sleep without watching Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
So there's no world in which Christmas Eve happens and I go to sleep without watching.
I'll just be watching it really late, like after everyone else has gone to bed.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, we're going to wake up to do presents. And it's like, oh, why are you so tired? We all went to bed at the same time. And it's like, actually, we didn't.
Actually, we
didn't.
So basically,
Or I can convince my family to watch it, which is a possibility.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's what I want to do. But we have like a lot of family over on.
It's like
Christmas
tradition.
Eve,
It's like, it's a lot.
Yeah. We're not all going to sit down in my sister and brother-in-law's basement and turn on Disney Plus.
Heck yeah. I'm like wondering how it's going to overlap with, because I think I mentioned this before. I thought there was whispers around the fact that this show was supposed to come out last year, right? It's been finished for a while, and the word on the street was like people really wanted it to come out during Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And is the reason simply because of the holiday special connection, or more because we have this overlap of days with literal Christmas and Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and it's very holiday-esque.
I don't know.
I know. And so I am just curious, because now we're reaching it next week, if that actually
they end up on another parallel
it's Christmas land
that's celebrating Life Day.
I would love that. How great would that be?
That would be kind of great.
Yeah. How great would that be? So something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out next week.
Yeah. Well, this is fun.
This was fun. Was there anything else you wanted to say about Can't Say I Remember?
Can't say I remember no At Attin. Can't say I remember no At Attin. I feel like the only thing I wanted to say is Nick Frost does the voice of SM33.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of these reminders that Nick Frost did an interview where he was like, I was so happy to meet Jude Law at the premiere because we never met.
Yeah, he didn't do.
And I guess like he wasn't on set
at all.
And so he just did it post. So I wonder what does the straight to camera voice sound like of SM33?
I thought he did it before.
He did it.
I think he did the lines before.
How interesting.
Yeah, and they played him on set.
Yeah, it's so interesting how that works, because I think he's great. And I think that it doesn't sound like maybe he did them before and then they did ADR.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so that it was more like reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's so interesting that they never met.
I thought it was too interesting that he had never been on set.
Yeah.
I kind of thought he would have at least been there.
Totally.
Maybe once.
Totally. Anyway, anything else you have to say about episode 4?
Just I. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this week's episode all about Skeleton Crew. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you'd like to tell us your crazy supervisor, SM33, captain speculation, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, give us your theories.
Yeah, we'd love the theories.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us on Twitter /X at SkyTalkersPod, or our personal handles.
We're also on Blue Sky.
We are on Blue Sky.
Just FYI.
Right.
We're Sky Talkers there.
We are.
Uh-huh.
You can go to Blue Sky. Also, our personal Twitter handles. We don't have personal ones on Blue Sky.
No, we don't.
But our personal handles on Twitter, X, currently are at Caitlin Plusher, and Charlotte's is at Clarity. And like Charlotte said, we're just Sky Talkers on a Blue Sky if you want to find us over there. And then we also have our website, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, email. Those are all good places to find us. And if you have a couple seconds and would like to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we would really appreciate it, as it helps other people find our show. And if you're interested in how to join our wonderful Patreon community and get involved on our Discord, where people are talking about the new episodes as soon as they drop, you can head on over to Patreon and check out our reward tiers there.
We also have bonus episodes and lots of stuff over there on Patreon. So thank you so much for supporting us. I want to say a huge thank you to these patrons: Megan, Chuck, Alexa, Emma, Jose, Justin, Kelly, that's it, Allison, BB, Nate, Linda, Madison, Aubrey, Tim, Charlotte, Colin, Stefan, Koval, Patrick, Another Skywalker, Jeff, Kate, James, Maggie, Anna, Molly, Kelly, Paul, Jedediah, Colton, Anders, Matt, Brad, Mercedes, Logan, Fio, Kat, Lindsay, and Arzu. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
This has been a 58 Ember production. For more shows, please visit the 58 Ember channel, 58ember.com, or find us at 58 Ember Media on socials.